Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a special edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am MrWarrenHayes, and it is special because we're popping out of the usual Thursday evening time slot to talk about the big New Japan Noah crossover event that just happened, that just finished. We're recording this immediately after the show. When I say we, I'm talking myself, MrWarrenHayes of the MrWarrenHayes Show, but I am also joined today by Kevin McElvaney who is the editor-in-chief of one small little publication called Pro Wrestling Illustrated that you may or may not have heard of. Kevin, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm just pulling up my notes here. Don't mind me. If I'm not making eye contact, it's nothing against you, Warren.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's all virtual eye contacts regardless, right? It's not as like if we were like sitting across the table from each other, it'd be a little weirder. Yeah. But right. It's absolutely
fine. I'm
just
gonna look at my notes.
Exactly. But no, thank you very much for joining me, Kevin. Like, right, we're both on the Eastern Seaboard, you and I, so it's late night, early morning for us because we just sat through the entire show. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you everyone who's watching right now live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or whenever on demand as well, or on your favorite podcast application as well. Thank you all very much for doing so. Feel free to leave some love, some likes, some reviews, some star ratings. That stuff is all appreciated a great deal or you can wait a little later. You can be like, wait, I want to hear these guys talk about the event. I want to make sure that these guys are doing a good job before I start dropping likes. And that is entirely fair. Absolutely fair. So I'm counting on Kevin here to carry the show. I'm kidding, of course.
I would encourage people just to piggyback off of that to leave thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle, along with their favorite match to Dave at Wrestling Observer.
Yes, Dave at Juno.com, right? Something like that. He's the only guy who still he's the only guy who still uses a Juno account, right? There's no one else on earth that still does that.
Yeah, a lot of people still have AOL email addresses, including, I'm surprised how many within the wrestling industry.
But I can buy an AOL address more than a Juno one. Like for some reason I feel like AOL was so like ubiquitous at some point. Like I get it, but a Juno.com, oh, come on.
There's somebody out there still holding on to their prodigy.net address, I'm sure.
just for nostalgia's sake. Bob Ryder still has his, I'm sure. Kevin, just to give a little context, just really quickly, just in case someone tunes in is like, who is this guy? Give us a little rundown. What do you know about professional wrestling? Why are you around here today?
I mean, not much. I'm kidding, and I'm not. I mean,
where are you?
I'm not the be all end all of professional wrestling, but I am fortunate to be in this role as editor in chief of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the world's #1 wrestling magazine since 1979. It's a tagline, but it's also true. I took over that role from Stu Sachs, who hired me on as a freelancer, my first paid writing gig out of college 15 years ago now.
Really?
Yeah. And, since then, I mean, contributed on and off, website, the blog, social media. I was the final voice of the PWI hotline. Fun fact about me, the 900 number.
I knew that. You told me that, and that kind of popped me. So, shout out to the 900 era, right?
Yeah. But yeah, since not even last March, we're in a new year now. Since March 2020, I've been editor-in-chief of the publication. It's been a great honor. Magazine that I grew up, as so many others did, reading cover to cover and obsessing over. And yeah, it's a joy. And it's been great too, because I've been able to meet a lot of great people like you.
Oh, come on. But like you said, like reading cover to cover and obsessing like over lists, for instance.
For instance.
I
don't know how much I worried about the order of the list back then. Because that didn't start until 91. No, that was right when I was like target readership, but I guess maybe the list itself was not even the 500 list.
Maybe it was so, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really that big a deal at first.
At
It really
first.
took a few years to become an institution and for people to put so much stock into it. And now, yeah, it's
It's its own thing, yeah.
Good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets us. It helps keep the lights on for sure, and we love putting it together. We take a lot of pride in it. We do have. I don't want anyone to think that we're the Motor Trend or Car and Driver or these like magazines that you never see, but they give out awards. Those kinds of things. Now I'm going to have Motor Trend angry with me, but that's a risk I have to take.
Well, there you go. I mean, hey, and a couple of calls between editor and chiefs, and
right, yeah, that's
settle the
fine.
beef.
We'll have them on a PWI podcast one day.
There you go. There we'll talk about the cars in pro wrestling. How they've been demolished and smashed and run over by monster trucks and so on and so forth. It'll be a great history. But yeah, well, that's fantastic. Thank you again for joining me today. And thank you to the people, like I said, to the folks joining us in the live chat, like Caleb, who's been able to make it to a live show. It's been a while. Nice to see you, Caleb. Let's dive right in. Let's start. Well, the New Japan Noah show, when it was announced a few months ago, I think took a lot of people by surprise when we started talking about 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, and people were like, "Oh my God, not 3 nights!" And I was like, the 2 nights is still very controversial. It's still a topic of discussion. Turns out night 3 ended up being this crossover here. Look, we'll probably talk about it as we go along, but there were a lot of teases throughout the evening here. Do you see more work with New Japan and Noah working together during the course of the year, or do you feel like this was really like a one-off and maybe we'll do this next year kind of thing?
Yeah, I think we will definitely see some more interaction between Congo and LIJ, because after that, there were so many different things going on. People up in each other's faces, some blows exchanged after the match. Again, when everything ostensibly should have been settled, and that's not something you see unless there's a plan for something else. Certainly, like, I guess theoretically there could be a scenario where there's like a one-on-one match and people could go into business for themselves, but you're not going to have 10 guys go into business for themselves. That to me says that there's more in the works. It was really interesting, honestly, Warren, just that this was the choice this year for what would typically be the New Year Dash show. I mean, around now. So, but
Sure.
To fold it into, promote it as a third night of Wrestle Kingdom. And it's a cool thing because I mean, several reasons for it, but one of them is just simply, New Japan is known for working with outside talent.
Mm-hmm.
And that was far less of an option this year. Anybody who did come in had to be under a 14-day quarantine. I think
was very complicated.
Yeah. And I think even then, probably it might've been different for people who weren't already on work visas, because you had people who were competing with the company throughout the pandemic who were back on the card, but you had some other people notably who had not been around, who did not come back. So I think this was a good compromise, a good way to build excitement off of Wrestle Kingdom, which I told you earlier, and I'll be upfront, I have not watched all of it yet because I had to be at the office. Some of us work in the morning.
What?
No, I've I don't want to say easy job, but my job's a pleasure, and it's one thing to go into it very, very tired, but I don't want to be on the road driving to the office.
No, of course. No, it's fine. Like I specifically take time off to watch the rest.
I've certainly done it in the past too. We just have a lot going on right now between the issue that's about to launch and then the one after it. But I've been trying to catch up with it. I know a lot of people, not to dwell on it, but I know a lot of people thought it was a little uneven. So I sort of think what we just watched was a pretty solid show.
I agree.
Front to back. So hopefully the perception will be that, like, even if you weren't crazy about night 1 or night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom or both, that you can walk away with. Yeah, but night 3 was pretty awesome though. That's going to be something to remember.
That was a lot of fun. I also seem look. I think that with the way things went in Japanese wrestling in 2021, I think that the companies don't have much of a choice to work with each other. Like I'm convinced. Like look. I mean, a gut feeling, right? That's all it is, and educated guesses. But we're going to see in a couple of weeks. But I think 2021 is going to be a bad fiscal year for New Japan. It was a terrible. They were snake bitten this year, right? Like from top to bottom, coronavirus just continuing first and foremost to impose all these restrictions, keeping them from getting full houses. That's why they'd run the Tokyo Dome at 50% capacity, because they were just bigger gates regardless, despite the fact that you're working in an empty dome. Sure. That's essentially it. And the injuries that New Japan suffered, and it was a bad year, and for the company. Again, like you said, they have a tendency to work with outside talent. Very, very hard for them to get in. Like, so there's that part of the charm of watching New Japan, of having people from the outside coming in to work for them as well. That was not there as well. Like, I really feel like, and probably Noah felt the same, felt that same squeeze as well. They don't have the same size or range that New Japan does. So I'm convinced we're going to see a few more of these. I don't know if they're going to be shows per se, but maybe a lot more. Maybe the promotion borders being a little more porous. Let's put it that way. Where you'll have some talent bleed onto one guy's show, and then so on and so forth like that. Because there were a lot of teases tonight. There were a lot of things that happened tonight where you're like, oh, wait, are we really... this can't be the end, because if they're doing this, there's got to be something more. So, but that's my gut feeling. Like, seeing how they set things up tonight, I'm like, this all makes sense. And I'm sure that financially they're all going to be able to be a little better off, because it couldn't have been great for them in 2021. Absolutely not. I don't think so.
Yeah, and as you said, some of that is completely beyond their control.
Oh no, absolutely.
There are restrictions, but there are. I mean, there's injuries, again, also beyond their control. But the fact is that New Japan, I mean, both companies were trying new things this year. I would actually argue that Noah, I don't know about financially or anything, but like the perception was that company was on the rise again. And then the whole deal with Cyber Fight and it having these connections to these other promotions, and then that encouraging more people to subscribe, I think that can only be good for them. But New Japan certainly was, I don't want to say in a rebuilding stage, but they were definitely trying to anoint new stars, and they were doing this in 2020 as well. And it's hard to do that during a pandemic, because you're not having these large crowds and not being able to test people in the same exact way, not really getting a fair gauge of how well this is working.
Agreed. It's like a lot of people, because I've seen a lot of commentary about people saying how Shingo Takagi his run as champion was a failure because he wasn't able to get more people in, get more interest. But I'm like, they're already playing with a poisoned hand, it's like, or as one of my friends would say, a poisoned chalice, which I think I'm going to use more and more moving forward. But it's like, as far, you start off and everything is already against you. I think it's very, very hard to judge the quality of Shingo's run as far as numbers go, as a draw, so on and so forth. That being said, I don't blame Gedo, New Japan, to go back to the old standards, right? To put the strap on Okada, put the other strap on Tanahashi. Oh, first challenger, Naito. Like, I don't blame them on doing that. 2021 was such a weird year for them. Play safe. It's the 50th anniversary of the company. I don't blame them at all. Go for the people that for sure are draws. Kazuchika Okada, draw. Hiroshi Tanahashi, draw. Tetsuya Naito, draw, for sure. Go for it. I can't blame
stability.
them for that.
Yeah. And it's okay to play safe sometimes. And I think, when you're playing safe is Okada, Tanahashi, and Naito. I mean, you're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, for that matter, the people they were, I mean, Shingo largely kept healthy. He had a COVID diagnosis in there, but he wasn't sidelined by injury in the way that Ibushi and Ospreay were.
Well, he was kicked out of the G1.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course.
He was kicked out of the G1.
Right.
I still think there was a little work element to it.
Sure.
But this is Warren Hayes tinfoil talking. Like, I have no...
No, but I can understand that. I mean, that's to delay the eventual matchups that, you know, later on.
Sure.
For instance, between not that him and Okada would have to have been in the same block, but, you know, just it's not something you have to even bother with if Shingo's not in the tournament. And then you also don't have to have him get beaten once or twice in the tournament to have Okada win it. And anyway, yeah, that's all you know, speculation, but it makes sense. And I think the thing that they're doing now, as opposed to saying like, hey, we're getting stuff back in order, no, well, they can tell it as, look at this, because Kazuchika Okada is the IWGP World Champion as New Japan celebrates its 50th year of existence. That's a great story.
Yep.
Like that makes sense. I think that's going to bring some people back into the fold who haven't watched in a while.
Sure.
And then if you have these collaborations with Noah, I mean, gosh, certainly they've collaborated with Noah in the past, but it has been a sore subject for a while, and it hasn't happened in quite a bit. So we could see other things. I mean, like, who's to say there couldn't be, you know, a Dragon Gate collaboration, or dare I say it, an All Japan? I mean, All Japan's really hurting.
Yeah, no, true. Or dare we say even a few more Stardom matches?
But that's not.
But that's a whole other thing.
Not like a conflict of
you know
interest. That's still Bushi Road. But yeah, I'd be thrilled to see that.
They still have trouble collaborating amongst themselves. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
But yes, no. But you're absolutely. Hey, you know, it'll be a very interesting year to see just how far they go on all of this. And I want to say hi to Rick. Polling was in the chat. Nice to see you, Rick. And he talks about the House of Torture being in their control, and it sucks the joy from everything it touches. But yes, but I mean, I don't think the House of Torture is necessarily responsible for any financial ruin in and about itself. Maybe, you know, it's an element that a lot of people don't like about the booking, but I wouldn't like put it at the forefront of, oh, New Japan failed in 2021. It's Dick Togo's fault. Maybe not that bad. But let's start talking about the matches, Kevin. Let's get into it. We'll go over the pre-show matches a little, just a bit. We'll skim over them. But there's still very interesting. There's still interesting stuff to talk about. The first one that we got out the gate were a couple of young ones. Kosei Fujita, the young lion from New Japan, against Yasutaka Yano, who is a young arrival in Noah. He's 21 years old, 15 months into his career. Fujita's 19, and he's like a few months out of the dojo, right, and starting performing. So, two very young guys that went the distance, a time limit draw. Kevin, I thought this was a lot of fun. There was what I noted here is that Yano really he stretched the hell out of Fujita in this match. Fujita worked also at some point to get Boston Crab locked on as well. He really like Yano made him work for it, which I can appreciate. And I even tweeted it out at some point. Fujita just gives him a kick behind the head as he's applying the Boston Crab. I was like, oh, nice touch. But yeah, tries to get him to submit Fujita tries to get Yano to submit in the Boston Crab, but it goes the distance before Yano can hit the ropes or submit. So there you go. What'd you think of the this opening with the two young guys?
I mean, you covered most of it, but yeah, solid exhibition. It's not terribly hard to go to the distance, of course, when it's a 10-minute time limit. But it was 10, right? Not 15?
Yeah, it's 10 minutes.
10. Yeah. But it was the opening matchup, and these two, you know, recent dojo graduates, essentially. So for them to have the full 10 minutes is also kind of cool. And of course, they're out there trying to prove themselves. So they're just very technically sound good scientific wrestling match. Really enjoyed it.
Just I enjoyed it too. And at the end, Yano slaps Fujita across the face.
Yeah, it's the unscientific part.
Exactly, the unscientific part. But then you're like, oh, that's right. These Noah and New Japan don't like each other. There you go. So that was a good. I liked it. It set the table. That was fun. Second pre-show match that we got was Tenkozy, Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima, along with Yuji Nagata, taking on the Funky Express trio over in Noah, King Tani, Mohammed Yone, and Akitoshi Saito. Look, I mean, basically what this was, it was the dads on both sides going after each other. No, but I did a little bit of math, and that should scare everyone knowing that I did math. But in that ring, like for real, like there tons of experience in that ring. 164 years combined experience of pro wrestling in that 6-man tag right there. The person who had the least amount of experience was King Tani at 16. He started wrestling at 29 years old, which is uncommon, especially in Japan, where they usually start a lot younger.
He's the DDP of Japan, I guess.
He's the DDP of Japan, exactly. Match comes to an end when Tenkozy hit a 3D and Kojima hits King Tani with the big lariat. I don't know if there's anything you want to add here, Kevin.
Yeah, the match had strong dad energy. I'll admit, I said this to you over DM, but the Funky Express is not my favorite act, so to speak. But it served a role, and I think they get people into it. The crowd loves them. I mean, for that matter, it's kind of funny. Like if you look at a Nagata and Kojima, these are badass wrestlers who play that semi-comedic role now as they're advancing in age. Maybe don't tell them I said that.
No, absolutely
but
not.
They
absolutely
do it.
not.
It's,
and I definitely won't tell that to Yuji Nagata either.
No.
Who I found out tonight, Yuji Nagata is he over his career has won all 3 of the big round robin tournaments of the big promotions: New Japan, All Japan, Noah.
I think Walter Yates pointed that out. PWI writer.
Exactly.
On Twitter. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if that's where you saw it or not, but
yeah, that's exactly where I saw it.
Good,
Thank you.
Good. Gotta give credit.
I just couldn't remember, but yes, absolutely. So yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I mean, good opening matches to get the crowd into it. The first official match on the card, we didn't really see it, Kevin. It was Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi, along with Taguchi and Master Wato, taking on Daisuke Harada, Hajime Ohara, Daiki Inaba, Yoshiki Inamura, and Kinya Okada. We didn't see most of it because the power went out in the building. It wasn't just like someone unplugged the stream. Apparently the power went out.
Someone tripped over the cord.
Yeah, exactly. The power went out in the entire building. But when it did come back, we got to see, I think, what a lot of people wanted to see out of this match, which was Ishii and Inamura going after each other, which I think was the centerpiece here. And it was indeed very good. You even have at some point, you have Inamura who lifts Ishii into a suplex position and starts squatting with him, and that's not something you don't see people do to Ishii all that often.
They call him the Stone Pitbull for a reason. Yeah, he's solid.
He's very exactly. And another good thing to point out here was the performance of Kinya Okada as well. Another rising star in the company who was absolutely fantastic. Who had the final sequence with Yoshihashi actually in this match. Yoshihashi continuing his streak of saving the day for his team. they do some great suplexes and a hook kick by Yoshihashi, and he gets the win on Okada. I mean, for what we saw, it was very, very entertaining. What did you think?
Yeah, I actually have a question for you, Warren, because primarily I know you're a Master Wato fan.
Yes, I am.
Does he have an affiliation? Is he with Chaos?
No, he hangs around. No, he had he was if anything, he had an affiliation with Tenzan for a while.
Right. Yeah.
But no, he's not in Chaos, and neither is Taguchi for that matter. So it was like
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, but there was a heavy Chaos presence in the match, so that's what I'm just thinking. The former Warren, this is how tired I am. I was ready to say Artists of Stardom champions, never open weight 6-man champions.
Not quite the same thing. Not quite, but yeah.
I would love to see Cosmic Angels against Chaos. That'd be great.
That would be a lot of fun. I'm not kidding. We're not kidding here. And here we got one of these teases that I was talking about. Even after the match, Inamura and Ishii were still jaw-jacking at each other. They were still going after each other. They had the camera positioned to make sure that we got to see both of them real well. So this was the first seed where I was like, oh yeah. And from what we got in this match, I was like, yeah, I'd be ready. And I saw it quite a bit on Twitter. Everyone would be down for a singles between Inamura and Ishii.
For sure.
And you're nodding as well. So there we go. Next match that we got here was the only singles match of the evening. Sho versus Kotoge, Atsushi Kotoge. Both junior heavyweights. Kotoge, a multiple-time junior heavyweight champion in Noah. So this was pretty exciting. Match starts off, and Sho is fully embracing his House of Torture beat now, because the bell rings and he goes for the Larry Zbyszko, rolls right out of the ring immediately as it starts. But Kotoge runs after him up the ramp. They start fighting out there. Sho uses nefarious tactics throughout, throwing him into barricades, cutting off his breathing with a piece of leather. Kotoge fights back, hits a Topikan Hilo, running clotheslines and a bulldog as well. Sho uses the referee to distract him and spears Kotoge so he can get on top of things. A little later on, Kotoge hits a side effect, which I think it's probably Chris Charlton on commentary then said that, well, Kotoge is also a tag team specialist, and he likes to use moves from tag teams from across the world as well. Well, look, it all comes to an end when Sho gets the ref distracted, and uses the wrench.
Yeah,
to finish him off.
I did not like that end sequence. You can.
No.
I sort of question the whole Sho's whole deal now anyway, but I understand, like, you can't keep the same teams together forever when they're doing this crash and burn style, and it's career shortening and all that. And they're young guys who still have good years ahead of them. So you want to shake it up for a little while. I get that. But I don't totally buy him in that, like, very cornball heel roll. And then the other part of it is just the actual, and I mean, this is the booking. This is not anything about the way he did it, but blatantly shoving the referee into the corner and knocking Kotoge onto the top, crouching on the ropes or crouching him.
Yeah.
I don't know. That should have been a DQ. And I know New Japan's a little looser with this stuff.
A little. A lot.
But like that was pushing it. And then, he drags the other guy. I don't know. It's just too over the top for me. But I thought the rest of the match was good. And I was looking forward to that one because it was, as you said, the only singles match. And I was, when I first saw the card and saw all the tags, I kind of thought, like, wow, I wish there were like one or two more singles, but maybe not one of my favorite matches on the card. And again, maybe the goofy booking.
I think so.
Both talented workers, like, no doubt about that.
I think there's a lot yeah, I've talked about this before, but I like repeating it whenever I have a chance to say it. I think that the House of Torture stuff is a bit of a detriment to Show's evolution, because everyone liked Show, even when he was vanilla, you know. Even when he was still like, you know, when Yo was injured and he was doing his singles thing, everyone loved him. He had these great matches with Shingo. You know, he could, like, from junior to heavyweight, he was just having great matches. He really didn't need the House of Torture bullshit. I understand that the House of Torture, you know, any faction in New Japan, you know, they have their juniors, right? You got the heavyweights, and then, here's our junior. So they went for him, but I don't see how this is. It doesn't make him more compelling. If anything, you're sort of not quite as excited to see him, because it's not going to be that Show, the guy who's all he was. It was all business. I'm coming to the ring and I'm going to kick some ass.
Yep.
I might lose. I'll probably lose, you know, but I'm going to kick some ass in the process, and that's what made him fantastic. So the whole thing is always a sour taste in my mouth. I was really excited to see Katoge, though. I'm not quite familiar with his work, so great junior. But again, this might be a little something that might spark
Very true.
a revenge match, you know?
Yeah.
The next match we got was Taiji Ishimori and the Booker versus Hayata and Seiki Yoshioka. Right now, currently, Hayata is he's the current GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion. So that added a little,
and tag team champion. He holds both.
And tag team as well. That's right.
Yeah.
Yoshioka runs the ropes early on, like a madman. Man,
he's incredible.
That guy, like, the speed that he was generating was insane, and
that was like Leo Rush speed when he's going as fast as he can, like that. Which is, I've never seen anybody move as fast as Leo Rush. So that
was crazy.
Yeah.
And he's running so fast to kick Taiji Ishimori down. He hits a springboard senton. Ishimori hits a springboard seated senton on him. Gedo gets into the match, whips Yoshioka with a belt on the floor. Gedo does Gedo offense. You know, he's, you know, limited in what he does these days, but, you know, it's fine. Ishimori does his sliding German, again, very fast. You kind of feel like as if Ishimori was like, "Oh, you guys want to go this fast? Let's do it. Let's go high speed." Everyone sort of kicked it up a notch here. Hayata and Ishimori, by the way, again, they pointed out during commentary that they have history with each other in Noah, and they had fought each other numerous times, and this is the first time they were in the ring together since 2018. Yoshioka does a Nasai moonsault, and Hayata hits the headache on Gedo for the win. I enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty good. What did you think of this match, Kevin?
Very much so, and I think when he pinned Gedo, I think I heard him say, "I respect you, Mr. Booker Man," or something like that. I've had that sitting in my pocket since you said the Booker at the beginning.
I'm glad I set you. I'm glad I set you up for that one.
Yeah, no, it was a good match. It was the first match of the night that Noah won. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this show is largely to build up both brands and benefit charity. So it's not the which brand supremacy, which brand reigns supreme. It wasn't quite that, which I appreciated. But it's cool to keep the tally. You know, along the sort of the same way CMLL will keep the Technicos and Rudos tallies during the show, that sort of thing. So I was happy to see New Japan win a match, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was did what it was supposed to do, like you said about a couple of the previous matches.
There you go. Oh, well, that's it. We're still warming up here.
Yep.
I think the match we're going to talk about here, I think, is the first that really got me. That really got me going. That was like, okay, now that we got something going on here, where we had the Noah team of Yohei and Nosawa Rangai taking on El Desperado, current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and Dookie. Now,
Doggy.
Chris Charlton tried to explain the relationship between Dookie and El Perros del Mal, you know, the faction that Yohei and Rongai are from, but I didn't it just seems so confusing. It was like a web of, like, he was explaining, oh, there's connections, and what, no, connections was not the word that he used. The word that he used, the term that he used was connecting tissue.
Connective, right?
Connective tissues. Yes. It's even worse. Because throughout the evening, like, I have not heard that term be spoken so much within 3 hours than that, like, connective tissue. And at some point, it's like I feel like I'm watching it. I'm getting flashbacks of Akira, you know, the movie, you know, where I'm like, I don't want to hear this anymore. I don't want to hear talk about tissue connecting with each other anymore. Like, it started to gross me out.
Announcers have their quirks and their phrases they like to lean on. I mean, I remember a few years back, I think it was Kevin Kelly who really blew up the term wrist control, and then that was everywhere.
And everyone was using it.
But that's at least, I mean, that's specifically about anatomy. That's not talking about the relationships people have in a way that makes you think of anatomy. So.
Yeah, the perfect nuance right there. Absolutely.
Did you know that Chris Charlton will like turn up his nose at a Kleenex?
What?
Yeah, like he it's not his brand. He won't go with Kleenex. He only uses connective tissue. I'm gonna leave. I'll see him.
You really got. I was like, what?
I had a feel, you know, I thought that joke up earlier, and I thought, like, there's no way, like, I'm gonna get him to bite on that. And then I'm like, we're both tired enough. It might just work. I'm gonna try it.
Congratulations, it did. It did. I want to say hello to Vape Ross Vape in the chat talking about tissues and Dookie. It's too early to talk about tissues and Dookie.
Well, it's Dokey though, isn't it?
I know. I just like
Chokey?
I like to say Dookie.
Oh, you're burying him. Poor Dokey.
No, he buries himself. The Perros guys go right at it in the match, and they grab the junior heavyweight title, the IWGP junior heavyweight title, and they toss it. This is like discard it. Like,
Warren, let me
tissue.
correct you. I had a voice note earlier today. What they tossed was the belt.
Yeah,
not the title.
No, but you're right. I read your tweet.
I'm gonna be pedantic.
And but it made a lot of sense.
7:30 in the morning.
No, but look, just to give proper context, Kevin earlier today was admonishing the world of wrestling to stop calling titles and to call them what they are: a belt, a cup, whatever. But especially when it comes to title belts, everyone says the title.
Well,
but
specifically when it comes to that, you can call them titles if you're talking about like the championship. That's fine. But if you're talking about the physical object, it's not a title. That's a Vince McMahon thing. He didn't want the word belt used anymore.
Right.
And everybody does it. Kevin Kelly did it during the broadcast tonight. Everybody bought it industry wide, and I don't get why.
Because you're right. Because a title does not exist. It's not a thing. A title is a concept. Whereas a belt is something you hold, right? It's a physical manifestation. It's something you can touch. You can.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
you can.
No.
I think it's very interesting. So he threw the belt.
Thank you. Very good.
And El Desperado did not like that. He didn't like it at all, and he carried that the entire match. He wanted to kick Yohei's ass because they trash talk a lot throughout this match. We get some low blows throughout the match. Doki and Yohei go at it as well with some really, really fast exchanges. Doki he gets crotched in the post also at some point. Desperado hits a nice spine buster on Yohei. He tries to go for the numero dos, but Yohei hits the ropes to avoid that. Desperado runs into a drop kick, and he gets a double flapjack by the Apero guys as well. Yohei hits a tope con hilo on Desperado. Doki then follows up with an SIE moonsault. There was a fun spot where Rongai punches El Desperado, but the punch has now become part of like El Desperado's solid move set, and Desperado sort of didn't quite no-sell it, but sort of sold it, but then came back and was like, you call that a punch kind of thing? A fun little moment. He eventually gets one on Rongai with the Pinche Loco, gets the win, and after the match continues arguing with Yohei. So again, more of these potential matches coming up, Kevin.
Yeah, and honestly, I had forgotten that happened after that match. I in some parts of the show, it stuck out to me a little more. I guess it was so visible during some of the matches with more people in them, the semi-main event and the or penultimate match, if you're going to call it a double main event. But then also Suzuki-gun and Segura-gun, similar deal where it's multiple people after the match jaw-jacking. And I mean, even, you mentioned earlier, there's a possibility maybe it's next year or something. It's like a once a year thing. And I think that's okay too, but it would also be cool if you could just have some more regular interaction between these promotions. Why not?
Just some back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Like you said, there's a lot of, New Japan works with outside promotions all the time, like CMLL and, other independents. But now that everything is so contained and travel is really complicated, and getting the work visas is harder, might as well just do what you used to do, but with other promotions, and it just keeps things interesting,
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what makes promotions look world class. And I actually just did a podcast episode with our mutual pal JPQ, and we were talking about this, about how I don't mean to suggest that like a Japanese promotion can't be great without American wrestlers or Canadian wrestlers or European wrestlers. If I am suggesting that at all, I'm also suggesting the reverse, that like these promotions also need Japanese wrestlers and European wrestlers. And, like the idea is to interact with people from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, wherever you're located, as much as you can. If you're going to be this world-class promotion, there's nothing wrong at all with being a regional promotion, but if you're going to portray yourself as this huge international promotion, then like, again, right now they can only do so much, but why not take advantage of these other promotions? Because it still gives that same feel, even if you can't. Actually, I just suddenly noticed your hat, like what is on your hat, and it's amazing.
That's a hella the stream of consciousness starring with that's a stream of consciousness commentary.
It's late. I've got 2 hours of sleep, and I was mid thought, and I got so distracted. I'm like, that's an awesome hat.
My hat completely distracted.
It's funny because if people tune in and they don't know that I've been up all night, they probably think like, oh, that guy's baked or something.
Yeah, but it's like
but I'm just very tired.
Just very, very tired. And for those of you who are listening just to the audio, I have a Bob Ross hat on right now.
Yeah, sorry, I have to remember there's an audio.
No, that's fine. Just to make sure no one feels left out. That's absolutely okay. The Suzuki-gun team of Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, and Taka Michinoku took on Takashi Sugiura, Kazuchiki Sakuraba, and a mystery partner who replaced Kenta, whose body exploded after the no disqualification match that he had with Hiroshi Tanahashi on night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom. And that mystery partner turned out to be Toru Yano, who's apparently a drinking buddy of Sakuraba, which Chris Charlton liked to underscore here. Now, and he came to the ring and he did his usual antics, and I Sakuraba got a kick out of it. He was out there in the corner smiling, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty fun. But we do have to underscore here. Now, we hadn't mentioned it before, right? But there were a lot of, throughout the evening, the music, there was basically no music. We were told, the entrance themes
I think there was literally no music.
There was there was no music. They were all muted because of international rights, apparently, which still doesn't make sense to me, but
I would suspect that because this was airing on pay-per-view, that there are different rights laws for that. Like, so that I could be wrong.
Like, look, to a point, to a degree, but I'm like, look, it's your wrestling theme songs that you make for your own wrestling shows. How come you don't have the rights to distribute them? You know?
Well, that definitely happens. I don't know if it happens in Canada, but like when, you know, we're watching a live New Japan broadcast on New Japan World, some themes will be muted. It's increasingly less so, but.
Yeah, like famously Togi Makabe's his sound-alike of Immigrant Song, right?
Right.
That's probably the most famous one.
But there's some examples of it. It's not most of them.
But right. Like, for instance, Kaze ni Nare never gets muted, and yet it gets muted tonight. Now, if you want to talk about Suzuki incidents. This makes even less sense.
Yeah, it's far more egregious
than the AEW one. It's much more egregious. What are you talking about? It's the guy's own show.
Right.
It's his own promotion, and they can't get their shit straight.
This was a Pancras show we were watching?
No, it wasn't. That's not what I meant.
I meant to say that as pancreas, but I said it more like a pancreas.
But you know, it's also early morning, so you could be thinking pancakes too. You know, it's like it could be
I'm thinking pancakes a lot.
Could be. I think of pancakes all the time.
Shout out to Twitter user Val Pancakes.
Yes, shout out Val Pancakes for sure. Sakuraba takes Taichi down and into a leg lock right off the bat. Sugiura and Suzuki, they just, in the meantime, they're slapping each other on the floor, which I thought was hilarious. They guys fighting in the ring, and you have these two are just like, they're just slapping each other on their on the face on the floor. The Suzuki Gun guys pick Yano apart, and eventually Sugiura and Suzuki get back at each other, start face washing each other with running corner kicks, which was awesome. Strike at each other some more. Taka and Taichi take control of the match at some point. Taka tries multiple times to roll up Sugiura until he eats a lariat, an Olympic slam. Sugiura gets the win for his team. Was a lot of good here in this match. I thought like it was, especially between. Well, look, Sugiura carried most of the heavy lifting in this match for his team, and I thought the stuff with him and Suzuki was very entertaining. What did you think?
Yeah, definite possibility for a singles match between those two later. At the same time, they continued to build up the tension between Suzuki and Yano around the KOPW championship. So I think it accomplished a lot. And again, another big, highly visible kerfuffle, we'll call it after the match.
Sure.
This is
kerfuffle is a good word.
About, yeah.
It's the good word.
Talking about like the tiredness setting in the stream of conscious. I can't tell you the last time I've used the word kerfuffle sincerely.
Look, hey, WWE is using Stupendous to put their big pay-per-view of the year over.
I like Stupendous.
But look, between that and calling someone madcap, like they're definitely
they need to be checked into a local medical facility, yeah.
For their live premium event.
What was the
no, but seriously,
sports entertainment you came up with earlier today?
Well, but that's the thing is like you say, someone asks you, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing tonight?" "Oh, tonight I'm watching I'm watching my favorite sports entertainment outfit. They're putting on a premium live event with their superstars." Then they look at you and they're like, "I have no idea what you're doing or what you're watching."
Well, this is what I'm saying. You don't call the object a title, because that's also like, doesn't happen in boxing, doesn't happen in MMA. This is a WWE, Vinceism, and I mean,
No, I know, but
I think they're fun in context, but like they shouldn't be the standard. I'm sorry,
but it doesn't, like, you tell someone, yeah, I'm watching a sports entertainment live premium event this weekend. They're like, I don't understand what you're doing. What are you doing?
You said high flying stage combat, right? I think.
Oh well, yeah, but that's eventually what they're going to call it, because they're cutting all the wrestling trainers, right? They're going to bring in.
I think that's actually more descriptive than sports entertainment, honestly.
Like, yeah, maybe it won't stick, but yes, I did talk about high flying stage combat.
Yeah,
I'm convinced that's what they're going to start calling themselves.
I love it.
I mess up his name once out of 5 times. Used to be once out of 2. I've gotten better, but Ross Vape left a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you very much for your support. The next match that we're going to talk about is Masa Kitamiya and Go Shiozaki taking on our favorites, Evil and Richard Togo. Although not bad. As far it's crazy how we judge these things on how we grade these on a curve when it comes to House of Torture matches,
right?
Because I'm like, this wasn't so bad, because it wasn't chock full of nonsense like the Ishii Evil match a couple of days ago.
There's a little bit of nonsense.
There's a little bit.
Takahashi ran out. Yeah.
Oh, well, everyone ran in. It brought the whole stable in. But look, this. First of all, when this match was announced, I was like, oh, poor Go Shiozaki. Who did he piss off to have to get into a match with the House of Torture and fucking Dick Togo? It's like, what did he do wrong? And it spills out onto the floor. Shiozaki even does the ring announcer spot into the barricades that Evil does every match. Like, he gets thrown into the exposed turnbuckle. But Kitamiya, though, during this match, like whenever he was in, he dominated. And he has this sequence where he's just hot with Samoan drops and sentons on both Evil and Togo.
He's fantastic.
He's really fantastic. Then eventually,
incredible look too. Like,
absolutely,
awesome.
And eventually, like you mentioned, the entire House of Torture runs in. Sho and even Yujiro got a payday. Good for you, Yujiro. And everyone, so they all run in, but Kitamiya dispatches them all. Right? He just gets rid of everyone. And I'm like, this boy has to give the New Japan guys a seminar on how to get rid of the House of Torture people. Because no one seems to have figured it out, but it takes a Noah guy to come in out of nowhere and just get rid of everyone. Right. Kitamiya ties up Evil into a leg grapevine, and Shiozaki winds up and lariats Togo for the win.
I like the ending of that. Yeah, it was, and that's one of, I think it is Kitamiya's pet hold. I think he might have beaten Muto with it. But yeah, it's like this Indian deathlock kind of thing. Prism lock is what he calls it. And he has that in, and I think that's kind of, you've seen it a little more lately, but I think that's kind of underused as a tactic for keeping somebody from breaking up the 3 count, is to put them in a hold of some kind, especially a really effective one. So it makes the team that wins look dominant, but it also, the team that loses at the same time doesn't look terrible, because it doesn't look like, oh, hey, you just left your guy hanging in here.
Exactly. He was tied up. The other team just had one smarter on
tied up. Yeah.
No, it was fine, nothing to complain about.
But I thought the ending sequence was good.
The ending sequence was very good, and yeah, like for real though, Kitamiya, for me, that was a bit of a revelation. That was very exciting for me. I liked it. Yeah,
and I think they're pretty behind him too. They had him in this pretty notable cage match last year, and I think big things ahead for him.
Zack Sabre Jr. and Kanemaru got together as Suzuki Gun boys to face off Naomichi Marufuji and Yoshinari Ogawa. And it turns out there's a lot of history between all of these people here. I think I had heard that Ogawa had trained Zack Sabre Jr. in some form or another, but I was not aware that Kanemaru and Marufuji have this deep, deep history where Marufuji only beat Kanemaru in a singles match once in his career, and it's by disqualification.
And if you look at where they're positioned in their respective companies,
wild. Like Marufuji is like, he's legitimately one of the GOATs, right? He's one of the greatest to ever do it. Was the ace of Noah for how many years, right? Yep. And then Kanemaru, where you're like, good job on your Best of Super Juniors loss this year. You look good though. I was rooting for Kanemaru at some point during the Best of Super Juniors this year because I thought he was having a great tournament. Like I was like,
yeah.
You know, I'm not saying he's a terrible wrestler, but it's just
he's great in the ring. That's
But like you said, it's just wild to think of their positioning, how they're perceived, you know, moving forward, and they have this huge history with each other. And Kanemaru is like, I'm on top of this guy constantly. It's just fantastic stuff. So it was cool to know all this history, getting into it. Just like it was cool, the beginning was very, very cool between Ogawa and Zack Sabre Jr. when they were exchanging straitjacket reversals.
I loved that.
Was that great?
I loved that. And Sabre kept going back to the cravat, like just classic hold. And Ogawa would keep finding a way to like hip toss him, or it was so cool. That was one of my favorite parts of probably the entire show.
And Zach was determining the pace of this match, period. Like he was directing everything. They go to the floor, and Kanemaru and Zack Sabre Jr., they start working on Marufuji's leg. Back in the ring, Zack Sabre Jr. continues to work on it. He twists it. He ties up Ogawa into an abdominal stretch while he's grapevining Marufuji. Remember that? And it's one of these things where you're like, this is only Zack Sabre Jr. who thinks about applying these. And then he tumbles back, and you can tell like it's accidental, right? But he holds on to everything nonetheless, and he just tweaks his position. Like this guy, it's always the same thing we talk about when it comes to Zack Sabre Jr. But this guy understands how to bend a human being, right? He knows all the pressure points. He knows all the twists. He's always thinking of how I'm positioned against this other guy, and that's what makes him so special. Marufuji tries to get something going at some point, but Kanemaru keeps working the leg. He locks in a figure four on Marufuji. Kanemaru hits a moonsault on top of that. Then there's a ref bump because we have to get the whiskey involved, right? Tries to whiskey mist Marufuji, but Marufuji's on top of it. He kicks him in the mouth. Pump knee to the back of the head of Kanemaru as well. And the Shiranoi puts Kanemaru away. So the Noah guys get the win here. I enjoyed this tremendously. I thought it was very, very, very good. And I saw a lot of people, Marufuji fans, saying that this was one of the best things that he's done in a while. On top of that.
Yeah, I think everybody looked really fresh in this match. And as you mentioned, a lot of shared history. This is one of my favorite matches of the night, for sure. And a good ending there, given the history between those two and the fact that Marufuji is at this other, like that has to eventually be acknowledged. And it's cool to even during the match have Kanemaru have his number a few times, because I mean, think about, there are some batters in baseball who are just incredible, but against certain pitchers, they crumble. So, and I think sometimes it's because of the history more than anything else, or a particular type of chemistry they have. So that's classic sports, and I think it works well in the ring. But like, let's face it, eventually Marufuji moved on, became this legendary heavyweight champion, and Kanemaru kind of stayed on the junior heavyweight side of things. And then, especially in New Japan, as you get older, if you're remaining a junior heavyweight, there's going to be fewer opportunities for you. So the match ended correctly.
No, I agree.
Marufuji pinning him.
I think so. Like Marufuji, he's like a 4-time GHW heavyweight champion. He's like an 8-time tag team champion. He's done it all, really.
100%. But I thought that was, some cool storytelling, and it ended in a logical place. So like the opposite of the show. Okay. Match.
Next we got probably my match of the evening. The match I like the most. The LIJ versus Congo match.
Phenomenal.
God damn, this was fun.
So good.
And from the minute, look, I'm sorry to say, Los Ingobernables de Japón is the coolest faction in wrestling. And I don't care, how cool you think. Maybe you're a wrestler listening to me right now and you're like, I have a faction. Good for you, but it's not as cool as LIJ. It'll never be as cool as LIJ. 5 guys coming out, each coming out to their entrance at the top of the ramp, standing, and you're like, look at these 5 fantastic humans coming to the ring, and all with their different attitudes. That's what's awesome. You know what it kind of made me think of? Because it had been a while since we had seen an LIJ. I'm an LIJ fan, by the way, so
I couldn't tell.
It had been a while since we have seen LIJ together as a faction doing something. 5 of them together, and it kind of made me feel like the Avengers to a certain degree, where they're all off doing their own things, and then eventually it's like, Avengers
they were
assemble.
Literally lined up like you would be in an Avengers trailer,
and you're like, Jesus Christ, look at them, look at all these fantastic humans. Just great stuff. And I mean, Congo's a bit the opposite, right? Where they're like, everyone wears the same shade of red. Everyone's in red, same shape. You can switch up, like, your trunks or whatever, what your gear, but it has to be like that level. It has to be that level of red.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and hair dye as well, and I'm mostly blonde hair dye. I'm sorry, my cat's screaming in the background, if you can hear that.
That's okay. Your cat wants attention. It's fine. That's all right. It's
kind of like Kano going into this match.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's so much stuff that happened. It was just a fun match. Like, I have a lot of notes. I don't know if I'm going to run through them all, but like Nakajima and Naito start, and there's a rumble in the audience. This audience which they're supposed to shut up, and just that electricity there. Everyone knew what it meant to have these two in the ring together, and everyone sort of, they couldn't contain themselves. They had to make a little noise, and that's fantastic. I love that stuff. Yeah. It all breaks down, and Congo and LIJ, they go after each other. There's some great exchanges throughout. Hiromu and Aleja as well. They had a great back and forth and a great high speed segment as well. But then Shingo comes in and sort of beats the hell out of Aleja, because that's not a fair matchup at all. But then
he kind of cheap shot at Kano. He knocked him off the.
Oh yeah, well they did that a couple of times. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that a couple of times. Then Bushi is in, and he gets quintuple teamed by Congo as well. Soya, he's just swinging Bushi around at some point. Keno kicks his head in. Like, just Bushi is eating it in this match, but that's kind of what he's for as well. Sonata comes in.
Hit that double Hurricane Rana.
What's that?
He eventually hit that double Hurricane Rana on Tadasuke and Soya, I think.
I think so too, because that led to Sonata coming in to face off against Soya, who used to be his tag team partner as well. So again, there's all this history going on, or connective tissue.
we are.
Sanada takes out he and Keno. He pescados onto Soya onto the floor. Soya chops Sanada out. Gets really brutal at some point. Then we eventually get to Keno versus Naito in the ring, and he just starts wailing on Naito. At some point, he's just like unhinged, just beating down on him. Hiromu comes in to try and break it up, but he's no-selling whatever Hiromu's trying to do. Like, he's completely fixated. I'm like, this boy's got a temper. He's just completely on top of him and just won't stop. Naito and Keno have a great exchange of kicks at some point too. Nakajima comes in and he kicks all of LIJ down, kicks the Naito, Bushi, Hiromu.
I think somewhere around here too, Warren, is where I went over to your profile to look for your signature catchphrase because I knew it was going to pop up any second.
and that's exactly what happened, because this was a lot of fun. Shingo comes in and he suplexes Nakajima. They trade some strikes, which was really awesome as well. That was the singles match that I wanted to see. When they announced it, I was like, just give us Shingo and Nakajima. That would have been great. Running team forearms from LIJ. Tadasuke is in with Soya, and they and Keno as well to take down Shingo. He ends up doing a swanton. Did you notice at some point Tadasuke, he did a cover? I don't remember on who, probably Bushi. I think it was in the part that and he put one foot on the chest. He did one of these and he went, "Come on, baby!"
Did see that.
He really, yeah. And I sort of popped for that. That was pretty funny. This all comes to an end with Shingo hitting a pumping bomber and the Last of the Dragon on Tadasuke. That's when the match ended, which was a lot of, like, it was the good kind of chaos in wrestling, you know, where there's so much stuff going on. Everyone gets their spots. Then there's more chaos. Just so much fun. But then it's the aftermath of this match, Kevin, right? The aftermath. In the aftermath, Keno just wanted to stick around and fight everyone. He was mad as hell.
Yep. And he wasn't going to take it anymore.
It was fantastic. And
match of the night, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, these huge tag matches can go any number of ways, but when you have the people that you have in that match who really know what they're doing, they have the chemistry and they have the star power, and they're over, like these two factions are over, you get magic. I really think that I think this is going to end up being given the old 5 stars by Meltzer when this show is looked at. And I know he's been a little bit more reserved because we just had all the New Year's shows that were phenomenal. And I think the only match that got 5 stars or greater was the main event of Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he's not just giving them out like candy on Halloween now. Like, he's maybe trying to scale back a little bit because he's getting this reputation. Kind of like the episode of The Simpsons where Homer was a food critic and he loved everything at first.
Yes.
And then people were saying, "Oh, you're being a little too free with this positive feedback. To be a little more critical."
I was like, okay,
but,
well,
I think this is going to be a 5-star when the new Observer comes out. I'm predicting that now.
Which is not even that great anymore, because now you can get 5.5 and 6.
And maybe it is more than that. But and if it's not, it doesn't matter because it was just such a great match. And
it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun, and I think this one is another one that set up a lot of things. I think it did set up Keno and Naito. I think I think there is some Nakajima Shingo magic to happen still as well. Like there were still all these tensions.
Imagine if Shingo went over and challenged for the GHC championship.
It's a much prettier belt to begin with.
It is. But only because it's this new belt. I think they were pretty close otherwise.
Otherwise, no. The new, you put the old belt. It's that one picture that they took with Shingo when he was still champion with Nakajima, and they're both holding their belts.
Yeah.
And you have the GHC title, which is huge, and it looks like it weighs 65 pounds, and it's like it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
an awesome looking prize, and then you have
a
Shingo with his
proper belt.
butterfly. You're like, my God, man.
Look, do you have a problem with the Divas Championship belt?
Not the Divas Championship belt.
This is an ugly. It's like, hey, the Divas belt? Do that, but like all the stuff that makes it charming, get rid of that.
Make it look like a butterfly, but it's not a butterfly.
The person who does the work on those belts, I just don't think the concept on that one was great, because that person does make some incredible belts. So it's not that the craftsman who did it, the artist that did it, were bad. I just think sometimes
it's the design.
Yeah, it's the concept is better than others sometimes.
It's strange. It's maybe it was one of these designed by committee situations. We have
maybe.
Too many people, and but we should instead of having one person just direct the thing.
Yeah.
I want to say hello to Evan Wright, who's joined us in the chat. Good to see you, Evan. And Kevin. Kevin's fine talking with me at 8 a.m. in the morning. What are you talking about?
What happened? What was it?
Because he says poor Kevin having to put up with Warren Hayes at 7:50 a.m.
Oh, this is delightful.
See? Main event brought Keiji Muto, the great Muta, back to New Japan alongside Kaito Kiyomiya. The Supernova versus Kazuchika Okada, current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and Hiroshi Tanahashi, the current IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. Interesting match. Kind of went the way I thought it would, where you have Kiyomiya doing most of the work because Muto is who he is at this point. Both of his knees are shot, mobility, so on and so forth. There's only so much he could do. And again, sort of teasing the match that everyone would like to see, which is a singles match between Okada and Kiyomiya, right? Mm-hmm. So we get we that's how the match starts off, which is Okada and Kiyomiya, and he starts working Okada's arm early on with some hammer locks. He even hits a drop kick and a crossbody, but finally Okada hits a senton, and then Tanahashi comes in, gets some headlocks, some arm locks, and then finally Muto tags in. There's some holds, some locks, some grappling, decent stuff. Nothing stuff that you can get behind. Then Okada comes in to lock up with Muto. Muto hits the flashing elbow on him and locks him into an STF as well. Kiyomiya comes in, he eats a flapjack from Okada and a kick that rolls him to the floor. Gets back in, Tanahashi's in, locks him into a cloverleaf. We go back to the floor, and Kiyomiya eats an Okada DDT on the floor, which has become part of Okada's regular arsenal of moves. Tanahashi hits a somersault senton. Muto. I still have trouble saying Muto as opposed to Muta.
But we know who you're talking about.
Still, Muto hits a dragon screw on Tanahashi and locks in a figure four, but Tanahashi fights back with some dragon screws of his own. Okada eats a shining wizard from Muto, and Kiyomiya pummels him, hits a missile drop kick. Everything breaks down at some point. There's sling blades and drop kicks. Everyone is just down on the mat, exhausted. Kiyomiya and Okada start fighting back. Okada hits a spinning tombstone, and another shining wizard by Muto takes Okada out. Kiyomiya hits a German suplex, a tiger suplex, but Tanahashi breaks the pin up. Okada counters a flying knee from Kiyomiya with and then follows up with a landslide, the Rainmaker, and that does it. What did you think overall of the match, Kevin?
So I enjoyed it and all four of these guys are in the ring together standpoint, because there is a lot of parallels to be drawn there. And commentary really put over the importance of that, especially Kevin Kelly, but especially Chris Charlton, talked about the history between these individuals. Kiyomiya kind of wanting to knock Muto off his perch. Like, is he, is he really helping the company, or is he just trying to like keep his name out there, like cede the throne, basically? And then, of course, much smaller age gap between the two, but that was the story of Okada and Tanahashi a few years ago, and then interestingly, Okada is now that elder statesman, even though he's 34, 35. He's got plenty of good years left as long as he wants to wrestle, and can keep healthy and all that. But so you had that push and pull sort of on both teams. You have that past tension between Okada and Tanahashi. You have this tension between Kiyomiya and Muto, and then you have it going the other direction as well. Like everybody wants to win this match. These are four really proud guys, all former world champions. So
right. They all have legacies, basically.
100%, yeah. So I thought that was better than maybe the actual match. The actual match had plenty of good moves in it, but it sort of, to me, felt kind of like a not overly long, but long, kind of standard tag match, because again, Muto's sort of limited, and he could come in for a bit and then he had to step out again. And of course, because he put so much strain on his body over the years. And I mean, I think Pro Wrestling Illustrated was talking like in the mid-aughts about how Muto was prolonging his career by taking a more ground-based approach. And I mean, that's, a decade and a half ago now, and he's still going. So it's really, like you said, both of his knees are shot. So it is tough. I mean, like when you put him in there, the match is going to be a certain type of match, and it had the extra challenge of having to follow that just bonkers good 10-man tag. So good. I think I get why it was last. Like, it's hard to follow those for stars, but then you have this 10-man tag that was on right before it, which didn't really do it any favors, but still good way to end the show. And
a good way to end the show.
Thanking the crowd, putting over Noah, putting over wrestling as a whole, saying wrestling is fun, you guys, more or less.
My lawyers were at the ready listening to that promo. We were very, very close. I think ultimately the story, because I think you like you said, the basis of saying, Kiyomiya wanting to, how was Chris Charlton saying, like coming out from under the large shadow that Muto has in wrestling, something like that. I think the idea that Kiyomiya wants to sort of break through and be that shining light. That was the term he was using. Be the shining light. What he wanted, and everyone wanted, Okada versus Kiyomiya, and everyone's saying that'd be a great singles match. I think what this showed here is that Kiyomiya is not ready to be on the level that people think he's ready to be on, kind of thing. Because
that's the message it sent.
Exactly, right? Because Okada pinned him clean as a whistle, and even after the match, like Kiyomiya's sort of crying and Okada's yelling at him, and Chris Charlton translated it and said, okay, well, this is how you're acting, you need to act like a man, something like that, something to that effect. So it's like, it's a message here, to be like, you're good, kid, but you still got work to do. And you know what? That's fantastic. I'm okay with some storytelling that maybe down the road, let's give him another 3-4 years. Maybe the next time Kiyomiya and Kazuchika Okada fight, it'll be a whole different story, And it'll be interesting to see how this translates into Noah in and about itself, right? Because even during the match, Muto was like, oh, you want to tag in? You're ready? Kind of thing. Come on in, tag, It's like Kiyomiya had everything to prove and everything to lose, and he lost. Ultimately, he lost it for his team. He's the guy who ate the pin. Sure, from one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not if not the best. It's a compelling argument to make, but
yeah,
I think ultimately the story here is that Kiyomiya is, he's maybe not quite as ready as he thinks he is, or as people think he is. He still has to go back to the drawing board and figure some shit out before coming back to hang with the big boys, kind of thing,
Yeah, and I mean he's 25, so
yeah, exactly.
Which, granted, Okada was starting to be on a tear run then too, but again, Kiyomiya had the GHC championship, so there's still time to get him back up on that level. And I mean, Okada had the stop-start thing too.
Sure.
Tanahashi kept winning the belt back.
Absolutely.
And it took a while for him to, I mean, really, what was it, like 5 years ago, maybe finally, like, okay, he's the guy now. Mm-hmm. If it was even, 5 years ago, he was definitely the guy by then. But not long before that, like it was...
No, there wasn't. You're right.
It was drawn out, but the result of that is that you have this firmly established star. So if Kiyomiya can follow that same trajectory, Noah can only be as lucky, and he can only be as lucky, and all of us,
in the meantime, because ultimately it's the fans that win. So that was the show, Kevin. I think we both enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it flew by. It was a good show.
Yeah, and even the stuff that was like we didn't care for as much wasn't like the drizzling, it was just, a little goofy.
and it didn't overstay its welcome. Those whatever did bother us didn't overstay its welcome either. Good pace to the show. I think the matches that deserved the time and the attention got exactly that. I really liked the last 3 matches of the card. I think they were fantastic.
100%. Yeah. Totally.
So there you have it. We're gonna wrap this one up. Kevin, thank you again for joining me. Just before we go, where can people follow all the good stuff that you come up with and with the PWI Pro Wrestling Illustrated stuff?
Yeah, so we'll focus on PWI, but go to pwi-online.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @officialPWI. We're the same on Instagram. And then Facebook is, I believe it's Pro Wrestling Illustrated, but if you search for PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, it'll come up. My handle is Wackelvaney, WACKELVANEY. Just, it's on the PWI profile. You can grab it from there. But the key thing is go to PWI's website and, subscribe if you can afford it. We're at 9 issues a year. That includes your PWI 500, Women's 150 issue, year-end awards issue. You'll get the whole kit and caboodle with that, and you avoid having to make a trip out. So
there you go. You get them at home in your mailbox. Remember those? There you go.
No one under the age of 30 remembers mailboxes, etc.
There you go. Well, thank you. Mailboxes, etc. Thank you very much. All right. Well, again, Kevin, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so very much. I'm going to let you go have a nap now.
Thank you, Warren.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us live. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If you're listening to this on demand or on your favorite podcast application, some love there would be fantastic as well. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time.